Hello guys, and we're back for a Pauper deck tech. So we are visiting this forum again to check on some of the new and interesting builds. Let me just say that this source of the list was from a recent local LGS tournament, and I think this was placed in the top 8. Not necessarily a winner deck, but what caught my idea is the interesting deck strategy that they have in this build. And we call this one is a Temur Cascade. That is red, green, and blue 3-color combination with the advantage of using the mechanic of Cascade. So we're going to check again what the Cascade ability implies. So this is a ability that I think was first introduced in the Alara Reborn. So this is ability that whenever you cast this spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an unland card that costs less, and then you may cast it without paying its mana cost, and then put the exiled cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So in a way, you're just basically casting 2 for 1 whenever you cast spell with Cascade, or for this example, Annoyed Altisor, that is a creature with Cascade. It is a 7 to cast 6/5, reaching the trample that can basically cast the rest of these creatures or other spells that is available in this build. So we're going to check on a quick breakdown of the list, which being composed of the Temur Cascade deck. So we have 23 creatures, 5 enchantments, 5 instants, the sort of card draw and the spot removal, 10 sorceries, also more for the utility and card draw, and 17 lands to compromise it. So basically, you have only 17 lands in a sort of a high casting deck, but you can explain here later on why the choices that is about it. And so we're going to start with the creatures. So we have 4 copies of Arbor Elf. So this common is just a 1 to cast 1/1 that can untap target forest. You can check here, we have several dual forests, snowland forest, island, mountain forest, and of course the typical snow covered forest. So this can basically ramp you up in your 3rd drop and your 4th drop at 1 turn earlier. And speaking of the 2nd drop, especially with the turn 1 Arbor Elf, is 4 copies of Jewel Thief. So this is 3 to cast 3/3 Vigilance Trample that enters the battlefield. You will create a treasure token. Those tokens can later on be used to ramp you up to more of your high mana cost spells or creature spells with Cascade, and also be used this one as an attacker or on the curve creature from the deck. Also, we have 4 copies of Avenging Hunter. This is 5 to cast 5/4 Trample. The only advantage here is that when it enters the battlefield, you will take the initiative. So having the bonus of initiative is like an effect similar to that of the Monarch effect, and which you can have benefits or added effects once you will be able to take the initiative. So we have 4 copies of that in this deck. We also have the first Cascade for red. That is a Boring Party, 6 to cast 6/3 haste that can also cascade for cards that has cost 5 mana or less. So you can check here, we have Avenging Hunter, and also some of the 5 mana cost that has be also added or can be cascaded depending on how your top cards of your library that are randomized would reveal. So that is 4 copies. It is also 6/3 haste, so this is very aggressive and high powered cost creature. And as long with that, we have another 2 card from not of the Cascade, but just a utility and also a late game creature with Generous Ant. 4 copies because of the use that you can for recycling this one. And whenever it enters the battlefield, you will create a food token. It is not only 5/7 with reach, but also a token generator in terms of food. And of course, a mana fix for only 1 mana cost. Again, we also have 3 copies of Annoyed Altisor, that's mentioned earlier, another source for your Cascade spell that can also 7 to cast, can basically chain into cascading with the Boarding Party in the deck. That is also a Cascade creature. That is basically your option, or probably your end curve, or having a curve that can cascade up to 3 spells in each turn. Now for your instance, what we have is 3 copies of Brainstorm. That's basically having to draw 3 cards and then putting top 2 cards that are basically unnecessary, or have those other cards placed to be able to be cascaded by your next spell. And also 2 copies of Scred, since this is more basically the lands are snow covered, so you can have this one as a sort of a 1 mana cost spot removal that is equal to no permanents you control. So that's 2 copies in the deck. And for the enchantments, wherein we have 4 copies of Beautiful Possible. This is just basically a 1 mana cost mana fix. As it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Then, whenever Enchanted Forest is top 4 mana, it goes with additional mana of the chosen color. So this is your ramp spell, 1 drop, along with the 4 copies of Arbor Elf for this deck. And of course, a single copy of Wild Growth as an added support that can enchant the land for additional 1 mana or 1 green mana in particular when produced. Now for the sorcery, we have sort of a tempo spell in the form of Temporal Spring. So the 3 to cast, put target permanent on top of its owner's library. There are instances that wherein you can just basically place those creature or any blocker or an enchantment or an artifact on top of this owner's library to just open you up for a turn of attack, or how you would deal a huge chunk of damage for that turn. So this one will really help. This one, along with the usage of your cascade spells, wherein you can just cast your creature, the cascade, and then cascade into Temporal Spring and remove their blocker as per the setup. Now for other copy that can also have to destroy your lands, your opponents, at the same time search library for a forest card, is the 4 copies of Mayan Volley Acid Moss. So this spell can also be a good target for Cascade, since they can also land your opponent, deprive them of 1 land source, while at the same time you can also ramp into a forest card into just put more mana to your board, and also filter out the lands in your card rows. And that with the 2 copies also, we have Lorien Revealed. This is from Lord of the Rings, Tales of Winter Earth set. 5 to cast, draw 3 cards. That also goes to have a mana fix in the form of Island Cycling. But basically in the late game, this is probably your gas in this deck, because they can also be casted again with your cascade spells or the cascade creatures that you have in the build. Now for the land, again, we have basically all of them are snow covered. There's snow land in the basic lands of forest, island, and mountain, and 1 copy of the mana fix Silent Forest, and of course the blue-green Rimwood Falls. Now for the quick rundown of the sideboard, we have 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus. This goes with those deck, probably those blue-black deck that relies on graveyard shenanigans to be able to gain advantage. So that you can also use Relic to just cast and pay 1 to exile all graveyards and then draw a card. Next, we have additional copy of Scred for spot removal, 4 copies of the Glimmer for maybe for this or for affinity matchups. It's a 2 to cast instant that can shuffle target artifact or enchantment into its owner's library. So those regeneration or other combat tricks that may have your opponents for prevent your destroy effects would not be mattering here in the Glimmer effect, as they can just be on shuffled back to their owner's library. And that we also have 4 copies of Weather the Storm. This is, I think, maybe for the burn deck or maybe for the aggro deck that has a fast way to kill you off with the burn spells. You can just Weather the Storm by casting this also, since if you have be able to cascade this, you can basically gain 3 and gain additional 3 from the spell that was cast before this turn. So that is basically a gain 6 effect for free, as you get also your cascade creature to cast on this turn. In that, we also have 2 copies of Breath Weapon. This is sort of a sweep effect. It's a common effect that can deal 2 damage to each non-dragon creature. In most of the matchup, there are also options that are you may be facing tokens or other non-dragon creatures, or that can maybe come up the board early on. So you can use this card Breath Weapon to wipe up their board. And last but not the least is 2 copies of Pulse of Morasa. This goes with returning target creature or land from your grave to your hand, and then you're gaining 6 life. So this additional life gain would also suffice, because if you are facing against other aggro decks in terms of gas, or in the mid-game scenario wherein you will need to have a creature, and maybe the good target here is returning a creature with Cascade from your graveyard to its owner's hand, and also gaining life in the process will also help you out against the 0 life or alpha strike damage, so that you will be able to also cast out your best creature that is probably with Cascade, so that you can redevelop your board and maybe win out from against your opponent. So that also depends on how you would set up this one. Probably if you are going against aggro, you can have Scred Breath Weapon for sweep, and maybe also Mirasa, while cutting out maybe Miraboli Acid Moss if the deck opponent's deck is more aggressive, so the Landi effect would not be really a matter here. So you would side out this one, maybe side out some roll in the build, and then place out this spot removal and live gain effects to help you against the matchup. Now, last but not the least, deck stats basically is mostly green, despite of the term that we call this one as a Temur Cascade. So green's your main color here, 39 with the green pips, then blue is 11, and lastly red with only 6. But your producer is somewhat in line with the count of the cards. We have 19 for green, we have several here for black and white, with red and 6 and blue is 6. Average mana cost is surprisingly in the middle with 3.56. That's between 3 and 4 mana cost. But with the help of this mana ramp with Triple Scroll and Arbor Elf, I think you can basically cast these cards with Cascade as early as possible and gain advantage despite the high mana cost of this deck. And I guess that's about it, guys, for this Pauper deck. We have called this one as Temur Cascade. You may be able to play against this one or playing this one in the current LGS. Let me know in the comments below what were your observations, or would this deck be at par with the current top tier metagames decks in the Pauper format. Again, guys, thank you for checking in this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, notifications bell for more of this deck tech and or other future MTG related videos. Thank you guys for watching, and see you on the next one.